Hello? Could you stand up for a moment for me? If you can do so safely. Close your eyes. Now try to balance on one foot just for a few seconds. Open your eyes when you feel unsteady. How long could you hold it? 2 seconds? 5? Or did you wobble, instinctively reaching for support? If you struggled, I need you to keep watching. Because that small wobble is not just about your legs or your inner ear. It is a signal from a conversation happening every second between your feet and your brain. And the quality of that conversation, the constant stream of information your feet send upward, is connected to your cognitive health in a way almost no one has ever explained to you. Here is what most people never hear. Your feet are covered in thousands of tiny sensors that report your position, your pressure, your balance to your brain continuously. This is called proprioception. And the brain regions that process this information are the same regions involved in attention, in executive function, and in memory. When this signal weakens and your balance falters, it's often an early measurable sign of changes occurring further upstream. What you wear on your feet, how you move, how steady you feel, these are not separate from your brain health. They are wired into it. I'm Dr. Marcus Reeve. After 2 decades as a neurosurgeon, I shifted my focus to health education and medical research. In those 2 decades, I watched how the brain coordinates movement, balance, and thought through overlapping networks. And I learned that walking, which feels automatic, is actually one of the most cognitively demanding things the human brain does. A quick brief note before I start. Everything in this video is general health education grounded in peer-reviewed research. It is not personalized medical advice. If you are experiencing frequent falls, sudden balance loss, dizziness, or numbness in your feet, please see your doctor, because those can signal conditions that need proper evaluation. If this is the kind of honest conversation you have been looking for, type yes in the comments. Now let's start. To understand this, you need to understand what your feet actually do beyond carrying your weight. The soles of your feet contain thousands of specialized nerve endings called mechanoreceptors. They detect pressure, texture, stretch, and the shifting distribution of your weight as you move. Every step, every shift of balance sends a flood of information up through your nervous system to your brain. This continuous stream is proprioception, your body's sense of where it is in space. Your brain uses this information constantly to keep you upright. It combines the signal from your feet with input from your inner ear and your eyes, integrates all three in real time, and sends instructions back down to adjust your muscles before you even notice you were tilting. This happens hundreds of times a minute, entirely beneath your awareness. Here is what most people do not realize. The brain regions that process and integrate this information are not isolated balance centers. They overlap heavily with the regions responsible for attention and executive function, particularly the prefrontal cortex. Walking is not automatic the way breathing is. It requires ongoing cognitive resources. Researchers can actually measure this. When older adults are asked to walk while doing a mental task at the same time, counting backward, for example, their walking slows. The brain is sharing the same limited resources between thinking and moving. This is why walking and thinking are so deeply linked. They run partly on the same machinery, and it works in both directions. When proprioceptive input from the feet is rich and accurate, the brain receives strong, clear signals, and the balance networks stay active and engaged. When that input becomes dull, weak, or unreliable, the brain receives less information, balance becomes more effortful, and a cascade begins that over years can affect far more than just your steadiness on your feet. Let me talk about the actual chain of events, because the connection between your feet and your cognitive health is real, but it is indirect. Understanding the steps is what makes the solution obvious. It begins with weakened sensory input. As we age, proprioception naturally declines. The mechanoreceptors in the feet become less sensitive. Nerve conduction slows. The signal reaching the brain becomes less precise. Certain types of footwear can make this worse, dulling an already weakening signal. Weakened input leads to reduced balance and confidence. When the brain receives less information from the feet, balance becomes less stable and more effortful. The person feels less sure on their feet, often without consciously realizing why. Reduced confidence leads to a fear of falling. This is one of the most important and most overlooked steps. When someone has wobbled, stumbled, or fallen, even once, a fear takes hold. It is completely understandable, but that fear changes behavior in a profound way. Fear of falling leads to reduced movement. The person walks less. They avoid stairs, uneven ground, and unfamiliar places. They stay home more. They decline invitations. Their world quietly shrinks. And here is where the cognitive damage truly begins, because physical movement is one of the most powerful protectors of brain health we know of. Reduced movement leads to cognitive decline through several pathways at once. Less physical activity means less blood flow to the brain. It means less of the natural growth factors that exercise produces, the molecules that help maintain and build neural tissue. It means more social isolation, which we know independently raises the risk of cognitive decline. And it means fewer of the complex, varied movements that keep the brain's motor and executive networks engaged. And running underneath all of this is a separate, serious risk. Falls themselves. A fall in an older adult can cause a traumatic brain injury, a hip fracture, or an injury that leads to prolonged immobility, each of which can accelerate cognitive decline directly. So the chain is not shoes shrink your brain. The chain is more honest and, frankly, more useful. Poor footwear and weakened proprioception undermine balance. Undermined balance breeds fear. Fear shrinks movement. And shrinking movement is one of the most well-documented accelerators of cognitive aging there is. The encouraging part is that this entire chain runs in reverse just as powerfully. Better sensory input, better balance, more confidence, more movement, and a brain that stays engaged and well supplied. If this is being useful so far, a quick like helps this video reach others who may be quietly losing confidence on their feet. No pressure, just appreciate it. I want to spend a moment on the most hopeful part of the science, because it reframes everything. For a long time, it was believed the adult brain could not grow new tissue. We now know that is wrong, particularly in one region. The hippocampus, the seahorse-shaped structure deep in the brain that is central to memory formation, retains the ability to generate new cells and new connections throughout life. And one of the most reliable ways to support that process is physical activity, especially walking. A landmark study published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2011 followed older adults over the course of a year. One group did regular aerobic walking. The other did stretching and toning. The walking group showed a measurable increase in hippocampal volume. Their memory-related brain region physically grew. The other group showed the age-related shrinkage that is normally expected. Let that sink in. Walking did not just slow brain aging in that study, it reversed part of it in the very region most associated with memory. This is why the chain I described matters so much. Anything that keeps an older adult walking confidently and regularly is, in a real biological sense, protecting and even building brain tissue. And anything that quietly reduces walking, including fear of falling rooted in poor balance and poor footwear, is removing one of the most powerful brain protective inputs available. Your feet are the foundation of all of it. They are where the movement begins. Before we go further, a clear line. If you are experiencing frequent falls, sudden episodes of dizziness or vertigo, numbness or tingling in your feet, a sensation of walking on cotton, or a noticeable recent change in how steady you feel, please see your doctor. These can be signs of conditions like peripheral neuropathy, inner ear disorders, circulation problems, or neurological issues that require proper evaluation. Diabetic neuropathy in particular is a common cause of lost foot sensation in older adults and needs medical management. If you have already fallen and hit your head, even if you felt fine afterward, and you later notice headache, confusion, drowsiness, or changes in behavior, seek medical attention promptly. The strategies in this video support healthy aging. They do not replace the evaluation of an underlying problem. Now I want to talk about someone named Eleanor. She is a composite drawn from many patients rather than one person. Eleanor was 73. A year earlier, she had stumbled on a curb and caught herself, but it frightened her badly. After that, something shifted. She stopped taking her morning walks. She avoided the stairs in her own home, sleeping in a downstairs room instead. She stopped going to her weekly card group because it meant walking across an uneven parking lot. Her family noticed she seemed slower, not just physically, but mentally, more forgetful, less sharp in conversation. They worried it was the early signs of something serious, and in a sense it was, but not in the way they feared. What had actually happened was a cascade. The fear from that single stumble had quietly removed almost all the movement from her life. Less walking meant less blood flow, fewer growth factors, and far less of the cognitive stimulation that came from her card group and her daily routine. The intervention was not dramatic. She was fitted with proper, supportive shoes with firm soles and good grip, replacing the loose slippers she had been wearing around the house. She began a few minutes of simple, supported balance practice each day. She started walking again, short distances at first, on safe, even ground. She returned to her card group. 6 months later, her family described her as having come back. Steadier on her feet, yes, but also sharper, more engaged, more herself. Nothing in her brain had been broken. The pathway that supported her brain had simply been switched back on. So where do your shoes actually fit into this? Footwear influences the very first link in the chain, the quality of sensory information your feet send to your brain, and the stability of your base. Several footwear problems are common in older adults. The first is worn-out shoes with smooth, slick soles that offer little grip, raising the risk of slipping. The second is loose slippers and backless shoes worn around the house, where a surprising number of falls actually happen. The third is shoes with very high, soft, unstable cushioning that, while comfortable, can reduce the precise pressure feedback your feet need to sense the ground clearly, almost like wearing thick gloves to feel a texture. The fourth is poor fit, shoes that are too loose to control or too tight to allow natural movement. What supports the foot-brain conversation is footwear that does a few things well. A firm, supportive sole that still allows you to feel the ground. Good traction, a secure fit that holds the foot in place, ideally with laces or a strap rather than something you slip on and off. A reasonably low, stable heel rather than a high or wobbly one, and enough room for your toes to spread and grip naturally. There is also an emerging idea worth mentioning carefully. Some research suggests that spending some time barefoot on safe surfaces or in minimal, flexible footwear may help maintain foot strength and sensory feedback because it allows the foot to move and sense naturally. This is reasonable for many people on safe ground at home, but it must be balanced against fall risk. For someone with neuropathy, significant balance problems, or fragile bones, barefoot walking can be dangerous. As with everything in this video, the right answer depends on the individual, and that is a conversation for you and your doctor. The goal isn't a single perfect shoe, but footwear that keeps you steady, confident, and moving. Here are some practical and smarter strategies I want you to take from this video. First, treat your footwear as part of your brain health, not just your comfort. Replace shoes with worn, slick soles. Stop wearing loose slippers around the house and choose proper supportive shoes with grip even indoors. This single change prevents a meaningful number of falls. Second, practice balance deliberately. Balance is trainable at any age. Standing on one foot near a counter, you can grab heel-to-toe walking, or simply standing with your feet close together with your eyes closed for a few seconds. All of these strengthen the foot-brain pathway. A few minutes daily makes a real difference over weeks. Third, protect your walking above almost everything else. Walking is the single most accessible brain protective activity available to you. If fear has reduced your walking, addressing that fear through better footwear, balance practice, and safe routes is genuinely a cognitive intervention. Fourth, combine movement with thinking when you can. Walking with a friend in conversation, walking a route that requires navigation, or walking in varied environments engages both the movement and the executive networks at once, exactly the combination that keeps them strong. Fifth, do not let a single stumble shrink your world. If you have had a fall or a scare, the most important thing is to address the cause and rebuild your confidence rather than withdraw. Withdrawal is the step in the chain that does the real long-term damage. And keep your feet healthy at the foundation. Check them regularly, especially if you have any loss of sensation. Keep nails trimmed, address pain, and treat foot problems early, because foot pain is one of the most common quiet reasons older adults stop walking. First, look at the shoes you wear most. Check the soles for wear and grip. If they are smooth or worn, this is the week to replace them. Second, retire the loose slippers. Choose supportive, grippy shoes for indoor use too, where many falls happen. Third, this evening, practice balancing on one foot near a counter you can hold. Time yourself. Note how long you can manage. Retest in 2 weeks and watch it improve. Fourth, take one short walk tomorrow that you have been avoiding on safe, even ground. If fear has been shrinking your movement, this is the step that begins reversing the chain. Fifth, if you have noticed any numbness in your feet, frequent unsteadiness, or recent falls, schedule a checkup. The strategies here work best alongside ruling out an underlying cause. What I learned in 20 years of operating on the brain is that the systems we treat as separate are deeply connected. The feet and the memory seem worlds apart. They are not. They are linked by a continuous conversation, a stream of signals that keeps your balance networks active, your movement confident, and your brain engaged and well supplied. Of all the factors in cognitive aging, this one is remarkably within your control. You can choose footwear that keeps you steady. You can practice balance. You can protect your walking, and in doing so, you protect something far larger than your steadiness on a curb. Every confident step you take is a signal sent upward, a vote for the networks that keep your mind sharp. Your feet have been talking to your brain your whole life. Now you know to listen. One last question before we close. How old are you, and where are you watching from? Write it in the comments. The balance and mobility patterns shift across decades, and knowing the age of this audience helps me shape what I cover next. A quick reminder. Everything in this video is general health education, not personalized medical advice. Your individual situation should always be evaluated by your own doctor. If this helped you, please share it with someone who has become less steady or less active. You may be giving them the explanation that helps them start moving again. Take good care of yourself. Take a walk tomorrow. See you in the next video.